again to the Ultimate Show. I'm Ben, and we have James along with us. Andrew couldn't make it, so we're just going to do our end of the season review, and this is the last episode for the 2017 season. So it was a great season. I'm pretty sure we all enjoyed it. And James, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, 2017 was definitely the most surprising season by far. If I have to say the best season we've seen in the AUDL, I think we've come a long way from the first season. We have a lot more teams, 24 if I'm counting right, 600, 24. The parity is a lot smaller. I mean, we're getting to a point now where the bad teams are not that far away from the good teams. Like, I mean, as far as record, yeah, but when you watch the games, you can definitely see that the disbursement of talent is there. It's there now. You know, it's becoming a more competitive league, and teams are having to fight for wins now.
Like, say, instead of winning by 13 pretty easily, it's more like a 4 3-point game instead.
Yeah.
So.
And you see teams that have losing records that are like only have like a negative 15-point differential.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, good season overall. Like James said, the competition has really stepped its game up, and obviously more fans in the league is only going to help that. Obviously, both of our teams didn't do the greatest. I mean, obviously James is more than mine, but I mean, Minnesota, made the playoffs, gave up a huge lead like usual. But it was great to see so many fans. I was excited that the Wind Chill got to play at the Vikings game during the halftime performance.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
A lot of people said that the Ultimate game was a lot better than the actual game itself. So,
I mean, I wonder why.
I mean, it was only preseason, but good coverage for the league there.
Yeah. We also saw some fun being had between teams during other events, like the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds and Nashville Nightwatch expressed some words on Twitter during the Stanley Cup Finals, which was pretty funny.
Oh yeah. Minnesota had no part of that.
Yes, but anyways, so like we're saying, just the league has gotten a lot more fun to watch. Teams are starting to become more active on social media now. It's getting interesting. It's getting interesting.
Yep, and it just keeps growing despite everybody doubting it. So great stuff there.
It probably helped that the MLU folded. It kind of helped bring in a lot of.
That's true. So I guess now we could take a look at championship weekend. What went down, James? If you want to refresh us all of the scores.
Okay, so let me go to scheduling right fast because AUDL app isn't working on my iPad, unfortunately. But championship weekend, this was probably the most surprising championship weekend any of us has ever watched. Remember, like the past championship weekends, we could pretty much guess who was going to make it to the championships. We were pretty much able to guess the division winners. We were pretty much able to guess who would win the finals from the beginning. Of course, some of us always had the hometown bias. So if you're Andrew, you always picked Madison. If you're Chuck Kindred, you always picked Madison.
He does.
But if you're Ben, you pick Minnesota. And if you're me, you just hope for Nashville to do something.
Keep it
close.
Yeah.
But this, first off, this weekend, championship weekend, I predicted Dallas and San Francisco to win their division. But I also predicted DC and Pittsburgh to win their division. And so I went 50% on division champions. I don't know Ben's percentage on division champions.
I did not get Madison. I got San Francisco. I don't think I got Toronto. And I think I got Dallas.
Yeah.
So I guess I went 50% as well.
Well, anyways, those are
Not
that
bad.
they would. Sorry, that was my preseason prediction. Anyways, when we did the playoff predictions, I had predicted Raleigh to come out of the South, so it kind of drops me down to 25%. But I'll deal with it. I I got San Francisco.
I definitely did worse as well in the playoff review. Because I'm pretty sure I didn't pick Toronto to make it out either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so, you know, championship weekend came by. Madison was the number 1 seed, and they faced San Francisco first. And this game was kept close the entire time. Like we never really got, no one really ever gained a lead. And I think the highest lead was 2 points until the end of the game, which San Francisco ended up winning by 23-19 to upset the Madison Radicals and eliminate the Madison Radicals from championship weekend empty-handed for the 5th consecutive time. And this is the 4th consecutive time that Madison saw the end due to the Western Division champs. So, I mean, you got to beat the West, Madison. That's all I can say. And then the heavily favored Dallas Roughnecks. Toronto overcame a 4-point deficit that came early in the first quarter. And after that, again, no one really pulled away until the end. Like, the semifinal games were awesome. Toronto ended up beating Dallas 24-21. And this is the first time that we saw the 3rd and 4th seeded team both play each other in the finals.
And am I correct that this is the first time also as well that the 1 seed in the divisional round didn't make the championship weekend? Because Dallas was 2, right?
Yeah, Dallas was number 2.
Dallas was the 2 seed in the divisional.
Yeah.
So that was the first time for that as well.
Actually, I think this is the second time because Seattle represented the West last year when San Francisco was number 1 seed in the West.
I actually thought Seattle was number 1 seed last year.
No, they're the number 2 seed.
Okay.
So it's
getting better.
It shows parity. What were your thoughts on the semifinals, Ben? Because I predicted San Francisco to beat Madison, as you all remember, but I definitely did not predict Dallas over Toronto. And even though I predicted San Francisco over Madison, like I still had a feeling Madison was going to upset.
Yeah. As much as I thought San Francisco was a good team, I didn't think their offense was like that good, and they just had a great day and just tore apart Madison's defense, which is not a usual occasion.
If you remember, I'd actually discussed that when I did my preview, and I was referring to like San Francisco's aggressive offense versus Madison's aggressive defense, and then San Francisco's conservative defense versus Madison's conservative offense, and they were always going to be matched up against each other. That was interesting. That was interesting to watch because they definitely stuck to their schemes. It could have gone either way.
It could have. But I don't know. I just thought Madison was the better all-around team, like going into it. But San Francisco just did really well. So gotta hand it to them. And then the other one, Dallas versus Toronto. I didn't think Toronto had the defense to keep up with Dallas's offense, but same thing. But Toronto just overcame and
they surprised
breaks.
It surprised all of us. I spent like half of my video bashing Toronto's defense. I don't know whether they watched my video and just said "screw you, James," or whether they just like turned up the heat, or whether the offense in the Eastern Division is just that good to make Toronto's defense look bad. I don't know, but it definitely they definitely
watched the video though. And then the championship game. That?
Well, this is the third time. This is the third year in a row that the number 4 seeded team made it to the championship game. Of course, all 3 times was the Western Division: San Jose, Seattle, and now San Francisco. And they face Toronto, who is a former champion in their own right. And this game was exciting all the way to the end. We saw lead changes happen, especially in the third quarter. No team wanted to give up. When San Francisco looked like they were going to go up, Toronto tied the game back. So I think the highest lead San Francisco ever got was 3, and Toronto just closed back in on it. I do remember one thing though at the beginning of the game when a throw went up to Antoine Johnson, a person who had been watching the entire game, the entire season, and he laid out and missed the disc. And Chuck Kindred's words were, "You throw that to Bo Kittredge and he catches it." And I'm just like, wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's harsh. That's harsh.
But we ended up seeing it.
The game went really well. So
yeah,
very high scoring, very entertaining. I think it was 30-29.
Yeah, 30-29, exactly. Toronto just couldn't get the disc back on the last pull, but they played excellent defense on the last pull. They did everything they were supposed to. No offense to Madison, but they did what Madison normally doesn't do. They made the resets hard. I think San Francisco had to throw like one 50-50 disc to actually clinch the game, and I forget who caught it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it was just so entertaining. Like, you don't really notice the names. You just notice, oh, the team's going to win now. And that's one of the things I do like about Ultimate. It's definitely more a team thing. Like, you don't have to know the players individually because, I mean, if one person's great, I mean, the impact isn't felt as much, I guess, in other sports.
Yeah, I mean...
about the team in general, so...
Yeah, I feel like in every sport, one player can always make a difference, but there definitely are sports there definitely are sport, like in all sports I feel like one player can make a difference, but I feel there are sports where the entire team still has to be able to play well. Like in hockey, one player can make a difference, but the entire team has to be able to work together. Like Pekka Rinne made a difference for the Predators, but it came to a point where he couldn't carry us anymore. In basketball, I think it's shown that one player can carry a team with a bunch of role players. In football, we know about Tom Brady being one of the best quarterbacks, but Tom Brady doesn't play defense too. So
and that's also the coaching staff too there.
Yeah. So I mean, football is definitely one of those sports. While one player can make a difference, it takes an entire team to win a game, and Ultimate's the same way because one person can't run with the disc. There are 7 people on the field, ideally 3 handlers and 4 cutters, and everyone has to be able to work in sync to get points and prevent the other team from scoring.
Pass it to yourself.
Exactly. Unless you're Russell Wynn in the 2015 championship game, who got the assist and the goal on the same play, which was freaking hilarious.
Oh, because it was tipped, and then he got it.
Yeah, and I was just like, and I remember Chuck Kindred and Evan Lepper were like, did he throw that to himself? I think he...
That's good stuff. All right, so love championship weekend. I heard Montreal was a really nice venue.
Yeah, and
everybody seemed to like it.
And Toronto definitely had the home crowd advantage.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear what Toronto did? They used the Montreal Expo's old sign, and they said the Montreal Rush. They were trying to get all Canadians on board with them.
Oh, like unite. Oh, yeah. No,
yeah.
Not a bad idea. Then there's that one Vancouver fan who's just like, oh.
Screw all of you. Go rip. I mean, he was probably rooting for them just because Darren Wu was there, or he felt Darren Wu was a traitor. Either way.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think the next thing we were going to do was to give an MVP for each division, and then, I don't know, James, you watch Championship Weekend really hard. Do you want to give an MVP for Championship Weekend?
An MVP for Championship Weekend. You see, I'm going to go with I did watch Championship Weekend. And I, honestly, and it's not just because they gave it to him too, but I do have to say Grant Lindsley of San Francisco. He did a lot. Played hard defense. Definitely went hard on offense. I don't necessarily know how many goals he scored. He may not have scored the most goals, but he was a contributing factor to all of the goals. Definitely helped them on defense. So I have to say Grant Lindsley. Well, I don't know where he'll be next year. I probably won't ever hear his name again because I didn't hear it until championship weekend.
Never heard it before. You said that. So I obviously didn't watch championship weekend, but I was paying attention to it. I was actually driving to Minnesota from Michigan that day, so that was fun little drive. You know, getting gas and checking the AUDL scores on Twitter, always fun. Um, so now let's give an award to somebody in each of the divisions. So who's the MVP in the South for you, James?
Okay, my MVP of the South is none other than Jesse Sharp. I'm just kidding. I'm just. I'm joking, guys. As much as I love Jesse Schaffner, I have to say it has to go to King Nethercutt or Jonathan Nethercutt, whatever you want to call him. He definitely is an MVP candidate for an AUDL MVP candidate this year. Helped lead the Raleigh Flyers to 13-1 regular season. Yeah, I know he had. I know he had like 72 assists by like week 11 of the season, so he's definitely above that point now. I don't know if he has a. I don't know. He doesn't have the ADL record, but he was an assist leader. He was an ADL assist leader, like top 5, I believe. I don't know if he was number 1. I think the number 1 was like Chicago, and that's never going to end up passing him. But watching Nethercutt this season, I don't know how many greatest he performed. For those of you who don't remember what a greatest is, it's when you prevent the disc from going out of bounds by jumping out of bounds and saving it. And as rare as that is, I'm pretty sure I saw Nethercutt complete 5 greatest during the regular season. It's rare that you even see one, or that one person even gets one. But Nethercutt completed 5 for me watching him. He probably throws the best, most accurate hammers I've ever seen. And for those of you who don't know, hammers are hard to throw, accurate at least. And I can throw a hammer, but I can't throw it with the laser precision that he does to get it between like 3 defenders. It's freaking ridiculous. It's rare that you see a handler be of MVP status, but Nethercutt has definitely made the case this year. And I don't think without a doubt he's definitely going to be on the All-South team this year, the All-AUDL team this year, and probably the AUDL MVP this year. But for me, he's definitely the Southern MVP.
All right. And what I'm going to say is I think that all right, I'm going to go with the Midwest first, I think. And I'm kind of more of a defensive guy. I love seeing those layout feeds and blocks and hand blocks especially. And no player for me emphasizes that more than Peter Graffey of the Madison Radicals. I know he's Andrew's pretty much favorite player and pretty much worships him. It's really hard for me to say that, but I have to give him credit for what he's done. He's been a great defensive player for him. That's all I can say, although honorable mention goes to Josh Klein from Minnesota. So, I see you, Josh. And,
just like my honorable mention was Jesse Schaffner. But I had to stop like mid-sentence. I was like, okay, guys, I'm just joking.
So let's hear what you have for the East.
Okay, so when I was thinking of the Eastern MVP, I was honestly thinking of a rush player. I was like between Mark Lloyd and Isaiah Mazzucchelli. And somehow, between trying to think of one of those amazing rush players, Delrico Johnson of the DC Breeze kept on jumping into my head. And then I thought about all the moves that Delrico Johnson made this season. Even though DC ended up losing to Toronto Rush, Delrico Johnson got a couple of highlights. And let me tell you, he's probably like, I have to put him above Dylan Freechild in this manner. He's probably the most hyped person I've ever seen. Whenever he does anything great, his celebrations are always on point, and he gets the entire team motivated to keep playing better. He has amazing skills as a cutter on offense. He's not afraid to lay out for anything. I say he has sticky hand syndrome because I rarely ever see him drop discs. So for me, the Eastern MVP, even though they may have made a second round exit, but Jonathan Nethercutt did too in the playoffs, my Eastern MVP is Delrico Johnson. Definitely helped the DC Breeze be successful this season. And he deserves a he deserves MVP candidacy to me at least, anyways. And he came from the MLU, so he's just one example of the talent that was in the MLU. He played for the DC Current, I believe, in the MLU and won a championship there. So he definitely has some championship experience, at least as far as MLU is concerned. But Delrico Johnson's a great player, so he's my Eastern Division MVP.
All right, and you know what? For the Western Division, it's really hard for me to say because as much as I don't want to give it to a San Francisco player because that's just kind of boring, give it to the winner of the division, of course. I really want to go with somebody from the LA Aviators after the season that they had. I put them in last. I'm pretty sure, maybe second to last. I think the only prediction I got right was San Francisco first and Vancouver last in the Western Division. I don't think anybody can blame me for 5 playoff teams. 5 teams had the chance to be in the playoffs like 2 weeks ago. Like, that's just mental. So, I think I am going to go for somebody from the LA Aviators. I'm going to say Markel Bogan because he's kind of their big guy,
Yeah.
Always does what he needs to do. Gets loads of assists, gets loads of goals, just that all-around player that everybody wants on their team. And if I have to give an honorable mention, I'll go with Sean Hamm of San Francisco for filling the shoes of Bo Kittredge. Well, he was injured this year. Rate the performance. But a great season, alas, and I really hope we see the same standard for next year and maybe even get it more competitive. And we hope you guys will be there.
Before we cut, before we cut, me and Ben had talked about this a little bit before we started the show. But I personally want to give a a career achievement award. I don't want to say the word GOAT, but he's pretty close. He's pretty close to that status. I mean, multiple world titles, multiple club titles, a college championship, 2-time AUDL MVP, 4-time consecutive champion. Definitely, we have to give a career award to Bo Kittredge. And the man's 35, and he still plays like he's like in his early 20s.
So basically, the Tom Brady.
Basically. And I want to know how many more championships Bo's going to win before he decides to retire.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like he's had a lot of injuries. It's either going to be next year or the year after. I don't think he's going to be able to play past 37. Although you never know. Surprise me, Bo. Do it. Do it. I'm a doubter.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about like last season when he won with the Dallas Roughnecks, how he thought that he didn't want to play anymore just because of the injuries that plagued him. He wasn't able to work out anymore. And then on the championship weekend post-game show, he said how he enjoyed it because of him being able to get over the injuries. He was able to train the way he used to. So, I mean, and that's the thing about sports, is they're so unpredictable because your feelings can change about them at a moment's notice, and it's always different variables that can cause them to change. And I think Bo Kittredge actually shows that because of his attitude fluctuating all the time on whether or not he actually wants to stay in the AUDL.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I'd like to appreciate him because there's no actual dynasty for a team in the AUDL. He is the dynasty. So,
yes. He's like
applause for him.
Like you called him the Tom Brady of AUDL. While I could agree with that, I'd say he's more of the LeBron James of the AUDL. It's not. Trust me, I hate LeBron James.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I mean, every single team that he's been on has seen the championship. The only difference is he's won the championship.
Pre-Miami, Cleveland.
Yeah,
that was rough.
Well, you can kind of say the same for Bo Kittredge because he was in the MLU before he transferred to the AUDL for only one season, and he took the San Francisco Dogfish to a losing effort in the MLU finals. So he has experienced the finals loss at the professional level, just not in the AUDL.
And what matters most? The AUDL. So
exactly.
We'll leave it at that. We thank you for being here with us. We hope to see you next year. Obviously, a lot of things can change, and we hope you have a great rest of the off season. Hopefully, you're a football fan.